Alright, I'm gonna talk about Friday price action. So first, I was on the 4 hour time frame. So we see Tuesday, Thursday swept Tuesday. We have True Week, uh, down never touched True Week again on Thursday, but did sweep below Tuesday. And then we have Fair Value Gap SMT with ES and Q. So a lot of four on here, and so we can assume our MXM to continue to rally pretty much. So right there's our TP. I mean, not TP, but our buy model right there. So pretty safe to assume we're going to swing down those highs through on Sunday, and then probably pull back or something like that. But on a higher time frame, it's pretty much all cleared up. Anyway, so that's the 4 hour. So now we're gonna go in the lower time frame. So on the 1 hour. So 1 hour was pretty symmetrical because of how much we had going on in that 4 hour chart. But still, it's all good. Right here, also on that 2 p.m., we had a PSP right there. The lows, both bottom candles are PSPs. And so then after that, we just had expansion. This is probably the perfect entry in the week in this gap as well, because we have SMT between the 1 hour gaps as well. But that's a pretty difficult one to enter on, low key. Um, so after that, we didn't have any PSPs on Friday. Friday we didn't have any news, but obviously we could expect expansion in a high probability setup. So then went on the 15 minute. I saw we dipped into True Day on NQ, but we didn't dip on ES.
Okay, it comes down.
And then I marked that off. I saw you don't have any daily cycle. We only had a 90 that was coming up. We had a 90 at the top, but obviously after we get the higher time frame, I'm overall bullish. So I'm disregarding that. Then we have 930 opens, rallies upwards, creates pretty much a really weak micro. But it was safe to assume, in my opinion, that that weak micro was just a pullback in order to create a 90-minute cycle. Obviously, that 90-minute was created later, but it's all good. I don't think that was probably a daily. I don't know. No, we didn't have any cracks. Did we? Bam, bam. No, we had no cracks. That's interesting. But yeah, because of the higher time frame, I was very bullish. And then I pretty much what I did, classic, I marked off bottom of 930, and then I used orb, so opening range breakout. So right here was 945. I pretty much looked at this right there. And by the way, this is for the main entry. So I'll show you guys entries in a moment. So bam, 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 bam. And then on the Dow, it was these two lows. So I saw the Dow close right here, and I saw these two were PSPs. That kind of gave me hope for the bullishness, especially once we closed above the highs, because of how parallel this close was. This close above here, this one then closed above there. So I was like, all right, we're bullish for sure. But also, I'm just going to show you the trades, entries. So as you guys can see, oh, it doesn't show you here. Oh, there we go. So that's the 1 minute chart. But I entered, it was really simple. So I entered right there on this close. I hit a buy. Now I accidentally did 5 NQ instead of 5 micro NQ. I was entering on top stop X. And then what ended up happening was I just passed 1500 and passed the combine instantly. Right there's that expansion. So I entered right here pretty much with 4 because I meant to do MNQ. So then what ended up happening was my TP became so fast because by the time I realized, like, look, by the time I realized, so I entered right there, and then next minute instantly took it out. I was so I guess that was kind of nice, but I did enter obviously on my starter account and MFF, which is in eval, so it was down 1200 on eval. So I took that, and that entry is right here. So right there, and that would be this candle right here, 953. So for that entry, it was very basic. I entered 2 minis. It wasn't this candle. It was click, click, click. No, it was this one right here. So I entered on this one, halfway of it. 2 stop loss 1000. I entered halfway of it, so it's not really the most accurate representation because my stop loss was right there at the low. And it ended up being like a little bit lower. But anyway, stop loss was this much, and I then adjusted it here. And then this is the classic, right? So we have higher time frame SSMT with lower time frame. Well, we technically didn't have a SSMT in the lower time frame in this case, but I was definitely counting that fact that the true day. Where's true day? See true day right there? No, that's not it. Yeah, wait, that was it. Hold up. There we go. Where was it? Oh no, it wasn't true day. I don't remember. I saw maybe it was on the micros, something like that. Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, we had some kind of a micro crack, so I used that as a lower time frame. And then and I pretty much marked off 945. And like I knew for a fact that it's going to expand because it's quite obvious with the 4 hour. The only question is, are we going to come back to this one? So I decided no, simply because this candle right here, if you look at it on ES, this one right here, 945, it closed deep above it. And this one, and then now this next candle was a PSP. And Dow already made its low, temporary low that needed. So I was pretty confident that's just expanding. And then the cherry on top of it all was right here we had this SMT, a fair value gap SMT, along with this right here being a PSP. So I realized this is a PSP, and then this candle right here, I just took an entry on it. And obviously, TP was 3R. Bruh. Really? Okay. Let me get the exact entry. There we go. That's like it. Yep, that's perfect. So that's what it was. So then it was 3R for the TP. And we ran up. So pretty much what happened was, yeah. So I had my TP right here. Yeah, I remember now. My TP was right there. Then I adjusted it some more because I realized, like, look, I want to see us go higher, take the high out, right? and go on because after that we had more liquidity, and then we had a breakaway gap in the higher time frame. So I just wanted us to get back higher up there. So then kept adjusting it more and more, and we had this little bit of a pullback expansion, and I didn't leave right here. No, wait, just realized I used one mini, not two. That's why I didn't leave. Because if it was two, I would have left one. That's why right here you can see enter and then exit. So I did that, and then obviously it pulled back. When it pulled back to right here, which was break even for me. So I left. I didn't leave at break even. I left like right below it, right before it. So a little bit of profit on this one. And then I left it. So I believe on this exact candle right here. Yeah, I left this. And then I saw right there, bam, 15-second, right? And then as well as on the 5 minute, I think it was. Yeah, 15-second plus this 5 minute PSP, right? So we swept the higher time frame of liquidity, and then we also dipped into the PSP. So then when I saw this next candle right here close, and it closes a PSP for the Dow, my next candle, as this one was opening up, I entered aggressively, and the entry was exactly right there. So then I hit buy two, bam. Stop loss was at the low, body low, and then we started to chop up, and then within this chop, I left one right here because I was like, all right, let me just go one lower because it's just chopping up. We also did have a slight SMT here. No, we didn't. Yeah, no, we didn't have anything yet, but this gap wasn't filled or touched on ES. So I was like, I don't know. I felt a little bit worried. So I left half there. And then the other half, I let it run for 3RR. So just the typical. Well, for me, it's 1500. Or technically, it's what, 300 ticks? Yeah, 300 ticks. So, yeah. So I waited for that. And then it expanded. And eventually hit. Okay, that was not accurate. But yeah, that's not accurate. It was. I left right there. That was 3RR. So I entered in the middle of this. And my stop loss was where at the low. So 3RR was. Let me see. I ended up with 1300. And they closed it at this candle right there. Yep, that looks about right. So my close was. See this 4 hour? So you have this gigantic liquidity void and this gap. So I put my TP literally at it, as you can see here on that line. And then that exact TP ended up, let me just do this here. Yep, there you go. So yeah, that's accurate. And that was it for the day on Friday. And then from that point on, because that was a 4 hour breakaway, from that point on, I pretty much called the high of the AM session by the 15-second. Because I left on that black one at the line there. And obviously we came back up, but this is 11:42. So here's your classic end of AM session and then the retracement and expansion. And obviously after that we expanded through all the way, but what's the biggest takeaway here is that it's still August, so it's better to take profits early. It was very expected of us to dip into this gap, not this gap, but this PSP if we need to pull back because we obviously had no SSMT. And then we finally had a daily one right here with the Dow. So the whole pullback around 1140 was for the Dow, but obviously there was an entry in Nasdaq because after that we just had expansion. So obviously chopped up a little bit, but we definitely did expand through. And there we go. That's 410. And so that's another expansion of 4 to 500 ticks. So yeah, um, that's it. I got my 3RR and moved on for the day. For next time, what I would do different, next time I would close this one and just leave it plain and simple. So right here, this next close. So obviously this is 945 right here. So this is a 945 candle. So technically you need to do the 940 because when 940 closes, the next one is the 945 one loading, right? Because you see this 954, 955. So you put your high at 940. So here's pretty much the swing high. So then at that point, you see we closed above them both aggressively. And then after that, we came back and touched it perfectly. So this right here would be your entry. That's And then if I could retake this, I would definitely just do this 500 risk, like just a classic 100 ticks risk, and then reward at a sweet 3RR. And that 3RR perfectly lines up with that 4 hour right there. So that was a classic. And then, yeah, so then there's your slow and steady expansion. Obviously, had a strong pullback, but it's justifiable. And the most important part about that pullback is it didn't hit our entry point. So if we do adjust or trade using ORB, we shouldn't really ever put our stop loss past break even simply because we're trading the expansion leg at 10 a.m., which can usually incur with a retracement at power of 3 the first 15 minutes. So as you can see, the low is literally at 10:15 with a classic power of 3. So that's why you wouldn't really adjust your stop and profit, or else you would get obviously stopped out. And so there's that. So if I could go again, I would definitely take this one, but still, passed on combine and then also got back on the trade of 8. Whoops. There we go. See? So got back up on there. So then I'm chilling. So that's it for the Friday. And then I'm going to continue to using the opening range breakout for my entry point, and we're going to see how it works next week. And the next Monday, I think, well, depends on how Sunday goes, but I have a strong feeling that I think Monday's going to continue to expand, but I think Sunday overnight we'll have a little, if we do have a pullback, then Monday will be clean. It has an ability to take this out. It's not a PSP either. Well, it is, but it's pretty weak. But if we don't, then it's just going to sweep it on Sunday, and then we're going to just chop out on Monday. But it's whatever. All right, that's it. Adios.